Good morning, one and all. Welcome to the online learning platform at Department of Civil Engineering. I'm Rajesh Gopinath, and you are along with me once again for the course Municipal Wastewater Engineering. If you recollect, in the previous session, we had discussed about preliminary treatment, wherein we had understood the operation, construction, and the significance of unit operations such as screens, grid chambers, oil and grease trap. In today's presentation, we shall be discussing with respect to primary treatment. Essentially, in primary treatment, we are referring to the sedimentation tank. So we'll be discussing the theory aspect of it, its construction, its operation, okay, the factors influencing it, the various types of sedimentation tank. Before I move on to summarizing the same and listing the references for your kind perusal. So basically, when I say sedimentation, we have also learned sedimentation in the previous semester. That is when we had discussed water supply scheme. So how different is this class from the previous semester session? Now, what we need to understand is the prime difference is with respect to the type of settling. As you are aware, in the field of environmental engineering, there are four types of settling: type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. While type 1 and type 3 is with respect to sedimentation, type 2 and type 4 is with respect to coagulation and flocculation. Okay, while in water supply scheme, you had type 1 settling in sedimentation because you had discussed about discrete particles in a dilute concentration. But when it comes to your wastewater engineering, yes, type 3 again refers to discrete particles, but as a concentrated suspension. So that is the basic difference between the type 1 and type 3 settling. That is, in type 1, it is dilute concentration, but in type 3, that is wastewater, the suspensions are in a concentrated form. And that is pretty much obvious. With this information, let's move further. Okay, so what is it we need to understand with respect to the rational, or why do you need a sedimentation tank? The need for sedimentation tank is to remove the settleable solids, because if you do not remove the settleable solids, eventually they will result in impairing the subsequent unit operations and processes. It might also end up projecting a shock load or overload on the subsequent treatment operations. Okay, now yes, since sedimentation is doctored by the Stokes law, wherein any particle which settles down on the merit of its weight, that is due to the influence of gravitational force, and does not undergo any change in size, shape, and nature, these are termed as discrete particles. All right, and we should also remember that there is a basic difference between settling and sedimentation. So settling is a process wherein the suspended solids or settleable solids are falling down freely, okay, due to the influence of gravitation. And sedimentation is a process wherein these settled or settled solids get sedimented due to the overlying weight of the falling settleable solids or the existing fallen settleable solids. Eventually they get compressed, and this is what results in the formation of sludge. With this basic information, let's move further to understand the construction aspect. So as you can see here, you can see the plan view and the cross-sectional view. Now let's look at these keywords. All right, so you got your inlet section, you got your outlet section, that is your influent is entering from the inlet section, your effluent is exiting from the outlet section. Okay, you have your settling zone, which is the greatest portion of your sedimentation tank. You can also see some mechanical accessories such as your scrapers, your chains. Okay, you also have your sludge zone wherein the sludge is removed. You also have the scum removal portion. We shall understand this better with the further slides. Now, there are four zones in a sedimentation tank: inlet zone, outlet zone, sludge zone, settling zone. Now, basically, when you talk about your inlet zone, we are basically referring to that portion which facilitates the entry of wastewater. That portion which is responsible to make sure that the wastewater which enters the sedimentation tank is uniformly distributed across the tank. Okay, and this is with the mechanism it has. For instance, baffles. Okay, so what they can do is, in certain construction they can have baffles in the inlet zone, wherein the wastewater, when it enters the tank, okay, when it hits the baffles, eventually its velocity gets reduced, and also there is inertial impaction, wherein suspended solids and settlable solids, after striking these baffles, eventually fall down, okay, vertically downwards. So baffles are very important in your inlet zone to prevent short circuiting from take place, because in case if you have overload, if you have a shock load, and if short circuiting takes place, then all the suspensions, okay, all the settled solids, they get resuspended. All right. So therefore, the process of settling and sedimenting is disturbed. So inlet zone is very important when it comes to your operation of your sedimentation tank. Now, the next one, settling zone. Settling zone by and far is the largest portion of your entire sedimentation tank. It is that portion wherein you have a quiescent zone, okay, wherein there is no disturbance, wherein there is no additional energy, dynamic energy or vibrant energy which is disturbing the movement of wastewater or the settling of the settlable solids. Here sufficient detention period is given, and in a quiescent manner all the settlable solids are expected to fall down freely. Sludge zone. So whichever settled solids or suspended solids, once it comes down, once it gets sedimented, okay, they need to be removed periodically, otherwise it can again disturb the operation of your sedimentation tank. So sludge zone is that zone where all the sludge is collected, and here you can have mechanisms to remove it regularly. Probably you can go for a chain and flight sludge collector, okay, or probably you can go for a traveling bridge sludge collector. Now, the fourth one, the very important zone, which is your outlet zone. Outlet zone is wherein there is a smooth transition, or where there is facility provided for the treated wastewater to be uniformly removed without any disturbance, without any scum entering it, without any suspended solids or settlable solids entering it. Okay, and for this, it definitely depends on your overflow rate. But yes, probably what outlet zone can have is they can have weirs, because the weirs which are set at the end of the tank actually controls the overflow rate and prevents the solids from rising back. Okay, but what we need to understand is outlet zone is very important, because it is this area of the tank which is controlling the depth of water in your settling basin. Now let's move on to the types of sedimentation tank. There are three possible classification. One is based on its location, that is relative positioning. Okay, since we are discussing about primary treatment, okay, when your sedimentation tank is after your preliminary treatment and before your secondary treatment, it is called as the primary tank. If in case the same sedimentation tank is present after certain unit processes such as trickling filters or RBC, or let us say, it's a part of your activated sludge process, then it is called as your secondary tank. Okay, in simple words, primary sedimentation tank is a normal sedimentation tank in which wastewater is stored at rest for some time, and the sludge is collected at the bottom, and the oil matter is removed at the top as scum. Okay, after this the effluent is sent to the subsequent processes. It could be ASP or trickling filters. But no, if I say that your sedimentation tank is present in the secondary treatment, okay, so let us say in the case of activated sludge process, so then the wastewater after aeration enters the secondary sedimentation tank, again where the same process of settling and sedimenting takes place. Basically the operation and the functioning, the construction remains same, but the purpose varies. All right, now let's move on to the second type, which is based on the methods of operation. Now this is based on the it depends on how the wastewater enters. This I will explain to you in the next slide. And finally, the third classification is based on the shape, that is circular, rectangular, or hopper bottom. Now we are looking at based on the method of operation. Now let us look at the first one, fill and draw type tank. This is also called as the plug flow reactor. In here what happens is, okay, the wastewater enters from the inlet zone, okay, then it moves on into the entire tank, then it is stored here for some period. All right, outlet zone remains closed. That is, you have the wastewater entering from the inlet zone as per the design capacity. Once this tank has been filled, okay, then the inlet zone also gets closed. So eventually it's a plug and flow reactor wherein the entire system, the wastewater is stored for a certain detention period, and this detention period is to facilitate the settling and sedimentation. And once this detention period has been achieved, let us say, about 24 hours, okay, then after that the outlet zone is opened and the supernatant or the treated wastewater is removed. Okay, here the settled particles again have to be removed, and this process can take about 6 to 12 hours. So in simple words, this is a reactor in which when the wastewater enters, the outlet zone is closed. Okay, once the entire tank is filled as per design capacity, the inlet zone is also closed, and then sufficient time is given for wastewater to uh, you know uh, enjoy its detention period, wherein the luxury is given for settleable solids to fall down and sediment. Now the other type is your continuous flow vertical type. As you can see on the left hand side and the right hand side on the bottom, you can have two types. One is your horizontal flow, basically when the wastewater enters in a horizontal fashion, all right, then it's called horizontal flow. But in case if your wastewater enters in a vertical axis, all right, that is, it may be falling into the tank after descending or ascending, then it is called as vertical flow type sedimentation tank. I'll explain this better with certain animations and the operation aspects. Now, let's look at the first one. Basically, your circular sedimentation tanks are actually vertical flow type sedimentation tanks. Now, here what happens is, you have the wastewater which is entering, okay, from the bottom, it rises up and then falls down. So there is a radial flow which takes place. And when this takes place, you have all the settleable solids falling down, collected by a mechanical scraper. So this is not a horizontal flow type. This is a vertical, continuous vertical flow type. Okay, what you need to understand is, what we need to understand here is, while in fill and draw type, okay, there was no entry and exit for a certain period of time. In your continuous flow, the wastewater is entering and exiting the same time. Okay, that is the basic difference between fill and draw and the continuous flow type. Your inlet and outlet mechanisms are not shut down. As the wastewater enters, same time wastewater is also exiting from the exit. Okay, now when it comes to your circular sedimentation tank, okay, as I told you, here the influent is sent through the central pipe and the radial flow continues. But what we need to understand is, these circular tanks, though they occupy lesser space than rectangular tanks, and they also have a high clarification efficiency, however, okay, they are uneconomical. Now let's move on to rectangular settling basin. Here what we need to understand is, this is most preferred, though they occupy greater area, okay, though they have lesser efficiency in clarification, they are more preferred because of simple operation, and also because the maintenance cost is less. Here the wastewater enters in a horizontal direction, and then the wastewater is distributed across the channel. All right, now let's move on to the third type, which is your hopper bottom tank. What we need to understand here is, here this is not a horizontal flow, this is a vertical flow. But what happens here is, here the wastewater, unlike your circular sedimentation tank wherein the wastewater was ascending and then descending, here the wastewater descends and then ascends. That is, the wastewater freely falls down and then rises, and this is facilitated by a deflector box. Eventually all these three type of tanks have the four zones: inlet zone, outlet zone, sludge zone, and settling zone. So this is a simple comparison of your rectangular tank and your sedimentation tank. So what are the design factors that we need to consider? Now, when we say design factors, we are basically talking about what are the parameters that we require in case if we wish to design a sedimentation tank. For instance, the length of a rectangular sedimentation tank. Now, that is determined when you have the detention period and the velocity of flow. Let's say you're talking about the cross-sectional area. In that case, you need to know the capacity or the volume and the length. Okay, if you're interested to determine the overflow rate, we need to have the discharge and the surface area. If you're trying to understand the detention period, you need to know the volume, that is capacity of the tank, and the discharge. Eventually all these empirical relationships are used, or attached with mathematical operators such as multiplication or division. This will be subjectively taken up in the subsequent classes when we do numericals and design attributes. Okay, and in that case we shall also talk about overflow rate and settling rate. Okay, now what are the different factors which influences sedimentation? Obviously we are talking about Stokes law, we are talking about discrete particles, so we are basically talking about the size of the particle, the nature of the particle, the density of the particle, the shape of the particle. Obviously if the particle is larger, heavier, okay, then the settling will be higher, the rate of sedimentation will be greater, right? Okay, when it comes to your temperature, yes, if in case the temperature is lesser, then the rate of settling will become slower. We are very well aware that denser the particles, higher the settling velocity is. But ultimately what we are trying to achieve is, we are trying to achieve a critical settling velocity. Based on all these factors which are listed here, the critical objective is, the prime objective is attain critical settling velocity. That is the settling velocity of particles in which 100% of these are removed from the basin. Okay, and that is what we look into when we determine the effective depth, the detention period, the inlet and outlet arrangements, and the overflow rate. So how does the sedimentation tanks works? Now let us say I'm talking about a rectangular tank. So eventually we have baffles connected. Now baffles can be fixed at the inlet and the outlet. Okay, or the baffles can also be connected throughout the length of the tank. So if I'm trying to explain to you in a very simple manner, okay, as we shift from this image to this figure, let's say the wastewater enters like this. Okay, then it hits a baffle, the velocity of flow is reduced, all the particles due to inertial impaction settle down, and then the wastewater moves like this and again comes here. Again it is impacted or stopped or obstructed by baffle. So subsequently, as the wastewater is moving in this fashion, there is obstructions all along in the form of baffles, and these baffles eventually reduce the flow rate, reduce the velocity, okay, and facilitate or enhance settling and sedimentation, and the wastewater comes out. Okay, eventually these baffles are preventing short circuiting also from taking place. So the operation and working of a sedimentation tank is very simple when compared to that of a circular tank. Now let's look at a small video to understand how a circular clarifier works. This is a video I've taken from YouTube. This is a plan and cross-sectional view. So you can see how a circular sedimentation tank looks like. You can see mechanical scrapers moving. You can see how the arrangement is inside. Now let's observe carefully. This is your wastewater entering. Okay, it rises, it falls. As it is falling, all your settlable solids are falling down, and the mechanical scraper is collecting them towards one portion, and then the sludge is being removed. That is, the settlable solids is being removed. I'll repeat this. What is happening is, basically, when the wastewater enters, okay, when the wastewater enters, it rises up and falls down. When it is falling down, all the settlable solids are descending, and the mechanical scraper is removing them, and the sludge is being removed from the sludge removal pipe, that is the settled solids. Meanwhile, it is also possible that there is certain oil and grease or any scum that also may enter your sedimentation tank. That is removed through the scum removal. That is this portion. All right. Maybe you can see it better. You can see the scum. Okay, now that is getting removed again with the help of the scraper. So it is getting collected here and removed. So this scum removal pipe removes the floating scum. Okay, this is typically the working operation of a circular clarifier. As simple as that, and as best explained with the help of this animation. Okay, now let's continue with this session. So you understood how a a primary clarifier, a circular clarifier functions. Even if I say secondary clarifier, the working remains same. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of a sedimentation tank? Yes, in terms of its operation, the technology, it's pretty simple. There is very less external energy required. It is economical, easy to operate. You don't need any special trained operators. Okay, but when it comes to the disadvantages, yes, if there is a shock load, okay, if there's short circuiting, the entire process is disrupted and there is resuspension of solids. Yes, they do occupy a large expanse of land. Okay, and yes, there is no denying that while they can remove the settleable solids, they are not effective in removing the suspended solids. So my dear friends, what did we learn in this presentation? We have understood the basic difference between settling and sedimenting. We have also identified that in wastewater engineering, sedimentation is connected or associated with type 3 settling. Okay, yes, if in case you are going for sedimentation with coagulation in secondary treatment, then you have to associate this with type 4 settling. You also understood that while sedimentation tank is extremely effective and benevolent in removing settleable solids, the same can't be said when it comes to suspended solids. Now I have attached, or probably I have provided to you here two YouTube links. I would request you all to go through this link and improve your knowledge. As a part of quick recap, let's look at a small video to understand and enhance your knowledge.
Here we have a rectangular sedimentation basin.
So in this initial beginning, we are trying to recap a rectangular sedimentation tank. And now he's going to speak about the 4 zones: the inlet zone, settling zone, effluent zone, okay, that is outlet zone, and the sludge zone. Let's recap once again.
First zone of a rectangular sedimentation basin is the influent zone, and this is where water enters the tank. As the water moves through the tank, it enters the settling zone. This is where the settling takes place of the particles that will settle out.
So as explained, in your influent zone, the wastewater enters. Okay, it facilitates the uniform entry of wastewater throughout the tank. Settling zone is wherein there is a quiescent, a feature wherein the settleable solids are allowed to settle down. All right, now where it settles down is the sludge zone, and the treated wastewater, that is your supernatant, which is devoid of settleable solids, is coming out of effluent zone.
The basin is the effluent zone. This is where the water leaves the basin. On the bottom, we have.
Okay, so what you see now falling down is the settleable solids. Okay, this is settling which is taking place. This is settling that you see here. Now they're all getting accumulated and collected in the sludge zone.
These are the 4 main zones of a conventional sedimentation basin.
Any type of sedimentation tank, hopper bottom, circular, rectangular, these are the 4 prime zones.
Whether it's rectangular or circular. The influent zone, the settling zone, the effluent zone, and the sludge zone.
Finally, from the sludge zone, we remove the settled solids.
There's the sludge collectors moving the sludge to the influent end, this rectangular clarifier for processing.
Okay, now moving on from a typical rectangular tank, let's try to understand a circular sedimentation tank. Look at the animation. You have the wastewater which is entering like this. Okay, the wastewater rises. Okay, then this wastewater would radially fall down. All right, so Yeah, now you can see uniform distribution of wastewater taking place. So what is happening? It is helping in the settling. Okay, you can see the settling here. Eventually this gets sedimented. So this is your sludge zone.
Make up
So you have your mechanical scrapers.
clarifier. The effluent weir goes around the entire circumference of the clarifier.
So I'll repeat. So you had your wastewater entering here, it rises and falls down. There is radial movement. Okay, due to gravity, all the settable solids will fall down, and then there is a scraper assembly which collects it to one portion from where the sludge will be removed. Let's continue. Okay, I believe that this video has enhanced your understanding with a quick recap of what we have learned so far. All right, now, my dear friend, these are the references that I've gone through for preparing this presentation. I humbly request you to go through these, and in the subsequent classes, we shall be moving on from primary treatment to secondary treatment, wherein we shall try to understand activated sludge process, trickling filters, rotating biological contactors, and MBBR technology. So what we need to understand here is every treatment technology has a purpose, construction aspects, operation aspects, maintenance aspects, and prime objectives that it is trying to achieve. Every technology has advantages and disadvantages. So in secondary treatment, we will try to understand the respective merits and demerits of all these technologies. Okay, so my dear friends, I'm done with this presentation for today. I thank you for your kind patience and hearing. Thank you.